I,
Excited for episode 9.
I can't believe it. It's gone by so fast.
It really has. We've been doing this for a whole year now.
That's insane.
It's insane, but also exciting because I feel like we've come so far and we're getting ready to hopefully rebrand and relaunch our own new podcast. So stay tuned, everybody.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Me too. So for today, we're going to be covering launch strategies that work. So before we dive in, we just want to cover kind of what essentials you need before you are going into a launch. Now, this all kind of applies to whether you're launching a product or a service, or if you're launching an actual brand or a company. So before you dive into the actual pre-launch, launch, post-launch phases, you want to make sure you obviously have your budget in place. You want to make sure you have your marketing strategy in place, your tracking guidelines in place, your content strategy, and your brand guidelines. Is there anything I'm missing in there?
I don't think so. I think you covered everything.
Yeah. And in terms of what you need to consider, so usually at the beginning of the year, you're going to do your annual campaign planning and block out, right? This chunk of dates, this campaign's happening, this campaign's happening, this campaign's happening. So you have an annual layout of what you plan on running for campaigns. Then on a micro scale, you want to think about the length of the launch and obviously consider, are you selling a service? Are you selling a product? Are you launching a brand? How long is that launch going to be? Is it going to be 48 hours? Is it going to be a week? How long is that pre-launch phase going to be? Are you going to be shouting about it? Are you going to be giving early access to anybody? As well as thinking about the objective of the launch. Is the objective solely to launch a new brand and just get the product out there and get your name out there? Or is it to retarget existing audience members? So think about the objective of your launch because that will feed into how you segment. So thinking about the objective and the segments. The segments are extremely important because that's how everyone's going to be experiencing your campaign from what POV they're coming from. Anything you want to add on that before we kind of dive in?
I think we're good. I think the top two things are your budget, the team you're going to be working with, the length of your launch, and then creating the whole plan and executing it, which we'll get into next.
Which we'll get into next. And my favorite rule of thumb when any type of campaign management is having a parent campaign document. So if you're using a task management system, it might be a parent task, but basically create a parent document that anybody who's got their hands in this campaign can click in and see the key information about that campaign. That means the name of the campaign, the objective, the date of the campaign, a link to key assets. You want to have your press release copy at the bottom of that, and you want to have any main CTAs and main copies. So if somebody's, on your PPC team, they have that parent document to go in and say, I need to whip up a quick ad to get this out. We had, an A/B test going. We need to see in there. They can just open that document and pull out copy if they need it. So having that parent campaign document ready, it helps your team prepare and it gives them, a touch point of how to roll everything out. So having that parent document. So now there's the three phases of a campaign of a launch strategy: your pre-launch phase, your launch phase, and your post-launch phase. Do you want to kind of start us off with the pre-launch phase and how you usually work that? Because I always get tripped up because I'm like, there's also a pre-launch phase, but I'll let you start that one.
Sure. So during your pre-launch, this is where you're teasing the actual launch campaign. So, you can do things like building your VIP list and letting them know that something special is about to come up. Sending teaser emails to build anticipation. And then you can also do paid ads, whether that's through Google Ads or social ads to tease it as well. And then this is also a good time to start coordinating with influencers to give them early access to the launch. It's also a good time I'm sorry, I'm so out of it.
Yeah, all right. It's a good
Uh,
time to reach out to PR outlets as well.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think the VIP list is a really important one because that ties into like the segmenting that I mentioned. So I think when you're thinking about your pre-launch phase, you want to think about whether or not that pre-launch phase is the time that you just generate a little bit buzz, right? You want to have samples being sent out to influencers. So you need to think about how much you're teasing in that pre-launch phase because you don't want to give it all away. Like you don't want to show your launch day assets in full. So keep that in mind when creating your assets. You want to have pre-launch assets. So teaser assets that kind of show what's coming, but doesn't give the full shebang because it pains me to see when people are in the pre-launch phase and they're pushing out their branding for the actual launch because it really takes away the surprise factor. So I
Yeah.
think keep that in mind in your pre-launch phase is you want to be generating that buzz, but you don't want to give away the full shebang. You need to keep that that little carrot that you have. So yeah, definitely like you mentioned, building a VIP email list. So using your social to get people onto that mailing list. A campaign is a great time to grow your mailing list and make sure you tell people like if you sign up, you're going to get early access to this and you might even get a discount code. Give them some sort of incentives and that gets them in the long run. And then also make sure you have your flows set up. If you also want to have a website, it depends where you're at on your journey with the brand. But if you're a brand new brand and a brand new product, you can have a landing page that says coming soon, like with the email list. That's something that I've seen a couple brands do that worked really well. In terms of PPC ads, though, something we had mentioned last episode, I think you'd mentioned it, is just, putting a little bit of teasers behind ads before the actual launch. Do you want to kind of elaborate on that one again?
Yeah. So if you're launching a new product, well, you can even do this for the email signups. I've done that in the past where, hey, something big's coming, sign up for our email list, but it's tied to an ad so it gets in front of the right people. Um, and something else I wanted to mention is it's great to plan your pre-launch phase by channel. Um, and another thing, you had just mentioned the coming soon page. Adding those timers to those pages also kind of builds up the anticipation of, oh, something's coming. There's only 24 hours left. I can't wait to see what it is. Um, so I would definitely add that in there. Yeah.
Timers are great, actually. I love having timers. You can put them at the top of emails and on the top of your website. So I think timers are really great. Um, Back to the press release aspect, because I think the pre-launch phase is a great time to send out press releases. It never hurts, right? To just send it out and see if you can get booked or picked up by a by a media company. It also helps to send them a cheeky little sample of your product, because the pre-launch phase is when you want to start getting your product into people's hands that are going to be talking about it. That includes providing copy to any influencers that you're working. That includes getting assets over to influencers if you're doing any giveaways. I think giveaways are probably like one of the best launch strategies. Wouldn't you say so?
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And limited time offers. So we know that psychologically with marketing, limited time always works because it's like you buy it now. We don't know, you might be the only one who has that kind of thing. So that really, really works. I've seen I think it's a Swedish watch company. I don't know the name of it, but they did a 48-hour launch where it was like
Huh.
you have 48 hours to get in and get this watch. And I think they sold out like within the first 48 hours. So that's a little bit more luxury driven, but that's again back to the length that's going to determine really how your campaign unfolds, because how long you're going to have these influencers shouting about it. And if it's a 48-hour window, then you really got to make sure you're shouting everywhere for those 48 hours.
Mhm.
Should we move into actual launch day?
Yeah.
So obviously, this is like the big shebang. This is your unveiling. This is when you want to make sure that at 7 or 8 a.m., whatever your peak time of posting is, you have like this amazing launch post that is impactful and is clear, CTA, clearly, boom, right to shop. Because you really only get one chance, in my opinion, to launch. That is the most exciting time. People love new things, people love new websites. So don't don't downplay the fact that that number, that first launch day post is so incredibly important, that the messaging is right and that the branding's on point. And making sure that you have that link sent out to all of your key contacts, because anybody you have involved in the campaign, they should be sharing that post, that launch post. Anything you want to add on that?
I think you nailed it on the head. I think it's definitely the time when everyone's all hands on deck, get it out there, share it, everything's going.
Yeah, you're hitting the ground running. This is like announce the launch across all channels. Then obviously any testing that you've done for paid in your pre-launch phase, that's when you're going to launch those babies, have them prepped and ready to go for launch day. Um, and then obviously activate all of your partnerships. Hopefully, any of those press releases got picked up and you can share those. You also have the media companies be tagging you. So you want to be reposting, regramming. You can get your customers involved as well. Like if there's any customers, again, that won't work for a brand new brand, but if you're an existing brand and you have any VIP loyal customers, don't forget them. They can be included in terms of influencers and collaborations with your customers. And then make sure, obviously, all of your flows are set to go. So everybody who's picked up from this certain campaign, make sure you've considered, are they dripping into the normal flow with your general audience, or are they dripping into a different flow? Consider their journey and make sure you have follow-up emails. So, post purchases, how did you like the product? Do you want to know more about us? Here's how we can keep in touch. Maybe you have a loyalty program, really keep that moving so the customer, you know, stays in touch with your brand.
Mhm. Uh, this could also be a good time if you have any brand ambassador programs. Make sure that they're included and also sharing stuff. I would also incentivize them as well.
Yes, and that reminds me, affiliates as well. If you have any affiliates that are working with you, they need to be in the loop as well. I think that's probably a good thing to have as well. Like you have your parent campaign document that would be included in there. So like copy for affiliates, copy
Mhm.
for influencers, copy for customers. So then you just have it right there to send out. That parent document is just my favorite.
That's smart.
Yeah, and then going into post-launch, I think post-launch is a great kind of example because it feeds into your overarching content strategy, right? So you're going to be wanting to think about, anyways, you're already going to be implementing. We have these three content pillars. We have this podcast, which we host once monthly, and we have a monthly event that goes with it. So that's going to be your consistent content strategy that your customer falls into. And in most cases, your campaign directly relates to your pre-existing content strategy. So say you launched a book and you had the whole launch sale kick off, you got testimonials. The post-launch phase would then be reaching out to anyone who purchased the book and saying, follow us on Facebook, join our group, and we're actually going to be hosting monthly meetups for mental health, if that's what the book is related to. So then the audience has something to come back to you for. So if you launch another product in the future, you have your existing community there. So
Mhm.
the pre-launch phase is more like thinking about the long-term game of, once you've had the campaign go successful, where does your audience go then? You want to set up any retargeting ads, obviously, and you also want to launch any post-purchase email sequences you have. And then you want to keep, influencing doesn't stop at launch day. Those collaborations and those partnerships, that's going to go back to your length, but check in with everybody. See how they're doing, see what their numbers are, what their engagement rates are. Maybe you sent a couple photos you're testing with an influencer. Check in with them. How's the test going? We might need to switch it up. So checking in with everybody and seeing if you need to pivot, seeing if there's any testimonials that you can shout about, because I think that's something that after launch day has happened, you can actually start getting feedback. And then
Hmm.
that's going to be one of the most important parts of your launch day is collecting the feedback, is collecting the data, analyzing, seeing how you can take those learnings and either repurpose them for, are we going to do this campaign again next year? Are we going to do it differently? If so, how so? And then obviously seeing if there's any relationships that you've developed within that campaign for influencers that can be, you know, taken to a longer term relationship.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want to add for post launch or any brands come to mind that you really like their launch strategy in particular?
I can't think of anything right now. I will disclaimer everyone. I just entered the third trimester. I'm expecting, so my brain is literally in the clouds right now. So I apologize. I'm sorry, Grace.
That's
The
okay.
next few episodes, Grace will be having guests, and I'll be coming back in probably after the summertime. So yeah, just wanted to let everyone know.
Okay, brilliant. I'm so glad because I wasn't sure if you were allowed to tell the audience yet, but you
Yeah. No, I feel so bad. I'm like, ah.
He's having a baby, and we're gonna have some guests on for the next few months, and then probably mix it up for 2025 and bring on some guests so we start co-hosting with some new topics and new minds on board. So we're very excited for you, and we can't
Thank
wait for you to come back, and you'll have a new co-host with you.
you. Yeah.
Um, but so in terms of branding for campaigns, because I think it's a very interesting topic in terms of how does branding differentiate for a campaign versus your brand, right? Because you have your brand guidelines, which we mentioned at the beginning. You got to have those brand guidelines. The
Yeah.
branding for your campaign is it's like the cousin of your brand, right? It looks similar
Exactly.
but different. And I think what you want to consider in your pre-launch phase, I got to come up with a better phase for that, but and again, sometimes you're not going to have a pre-launch phase. Like your pre-launch phase for your campaign might only be the preparation and the reach out because you might be only having a 3-day campaign. It lasts 3 days and that's it. And then you go into post launch and you analyze. Whereas if you are, launching a campaign, Skims is a good example. We talked about them before.
Hmm.
Their Black Friday sale, they actually they will send you the sale page. You say you can look at the sale now. You can't shop it yet. And then they will send you specific pics of what you've been looking at. So their pre-launch strategy, that's it. It's sending you the pre-sale page. So when the time comes, they know what to send you and you're ready to shop. So considering launch assets that you need, whether or not you only need launch day assets or you need pre-launch assets, because that's really important. Because even if you are having a pre-launch and a launch, you can't use the exact same launch days because of that. We need that surprise factor. You don't want to
Hmm.
once you give away the surprise factor, you can't get it back. So don't give it away. So launch assets for launch day and any promo assets. I think, have you ever made like an influencer packet for a campaign? Because I feel like that is something that could be really handy for people that are working with more than a few influencers. It's like for every campaign, you have a parent document for influencers.
Yeah, I haven't created an actual document, but I have seen the prepackaged I forget what it's called. Babblebox, if you've heard of them, they do it.
I have
Um,
heard of that.
they create like a whole box and it's branded with everything that the influencer needs to know, including like the content requirements. If you look them up, they do a great job and that's a good partner to work with.
Yeah, I just checked them out. Great. And that's exactly what I mean. It's
Yeah.
when you're getting ready to create a campaign, think of any centralized documents that you can just send out. It's the same as like a PR media kit. A lot of brands have a landing page that they can send out with your press release. So that's
Mhm.
something that's really, really good to have for any campaign that you run is having that parent document. And then obviously PR assets. Any logos as well. I think that is, think about how your logo plays into the campaign. This doesn't always happen. In most cases, your logo will remain the exact same. When does it change? If it's something that is values driven, so pride is one that we've seen. They changed the logos towards pride, which I love that. Honestly, I think it's such a small, beautiful gesture just to change your logo like that. But
Mhm.
think about how your logo plays into it. Things like too, like maybe your logo wears a Christmas hat. I'm trying for your Christmas campaign, silly things like that. Google's very good at it. We've seen Google change
Mhm.
the homepage. And then obviously ensuring you might want to have like a mini brand guidelines built into that parent task, but that's basically going to be a smaller version of your existing brand guidelines. So you don't need to go overarching with it, but you want to have it, clear enough that if anybody is in any doubt, or maybe you have somebody from another team spotting a marketer, they have something to look at for guidance. Um, and then also, I guess communities is something we didn't touch upon because I feel like communities are becoming more and more part of campaigns. Is there anything that you want to kind of speak on with communities in terms of how you can use them in a campaign?
Yeah. So a previous client was in the cannabis industry and they didn't sell cannabis, but it was the products associated with it. And it was mainly apparel. But there are tons of like Facebook groups. I've had a lot of clients that leverage those. So if you had a influencer or brand ambassador who participated in those communities, they could share your launch um, campaign within those Facebook groups as long as it's allowed. But it's a great way to get more eyes on your new product or service and hopefully more conversions as well.
Yeah, and I didn't even think about an influencer takeover. That could be like an actual campaign where you have an influencer take over your account for the day.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so as well as any type of group that serves, as long as the group serves a clear purpose. So I
Yep.
wouldn't recommend people creating a group for an actual campaign unless, and tell me if you agree with me here, but like the group should serve the overarching purpose of the business, and then the campaign feeds into that. Is that fair to say?
No, that makes total sense. For one of my clients, they do SAT and ACT prep. So on Facebook, they have their own SAT prep study group. So people are already coming to that group expecting something related to the SAT or ACT. So when they do campaigns promoting certain products that are related to it, it's not a, oh my gosh, why is this here? That's spam. It's, oh, I'm already expecting this because you're already providing me with resources to help me with the SAT and now oh this paid option can help me even more. It's a another way that you can also build trust with your own communities.
100%. And it's so funny that you use that example because I have a friend that does the exact same thing. And
Awesome.
yeah, she's huge on social. So I would totally agree with what you just said because same thing for her. And that reminds me of a candle company that I found them on YouTube. But I was just listening to kind of their launch strategy, and they said something really interesting how they differentiated. And I love this because it is a clear purpose where they said Instagram was for our candles to look pretty. That's where they looked pretty, you could shop them. And TikTok was where they showed packaging issues and like the
Oh,
shipping issues and like come behind the scenes as we build this company, and it was very, very transparent. They also shared like their expense reports, and like I'm telling like really, really transparent stuff.
huh.
And their launch, they made $96, so they broke even, which is good for a launch. Like they broke even with a $96 profit, and they were super open about that journey. And I loved how they differentiated what their Instagram was for versus on their TikTok, because that gives
Mhm.
you a clear reason as an audience of what you're going to be getting two different things from the same company, but you're still having the same branding. Beautiful.
Mhm.
My ears. Um, but I just love that. And I would say that's a great, great advice. Like in general, rule of thumb, we are always preaching that, like, think about what the purpose of your platform is. Well, think about that with your launch too, as well.
Mhm. Definitely.
And I mean, is there anything else that we need to really add? I feel like in terms of, launch campaigns, it's very circumstantial. So if you like what you've heard today and you want to have a session with Diana and I and just talk through your launch campaign, you can absolutely do that. Diana, do you just want to remind everybody about our beautiful social media management package we have?
Yes, so we have a e-commerce social media audit and implementation package, which you can find in the link below that I believe Grace will include. You'll work with Grace to completely audit your everything, so website, social media, and then after that, my team will go ahead and implement everything that she provides in the audit. So,
Yes.
yeah.
So thank you for tuning in, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe below, hit the like button, and yes, you can click the link in the description and get in touch if you need help with your marketing. And we'll see you next. Well, we won't see you, Diana, next time, but
I
we'll see you
know.
in 3 months.